Today we're going to talk about one of the most badass abilities in all of anime. It has gone by many names over the years. King's Haki, Conqueror's Haki, Color of the Supreme King's Haki, and even Conqueror's Spirit at times. Of course, we are talking none other than the ability that only 1 in millions have in the One Piece universe. For the rest of the video, I will be referring to it as King's Haki, but we got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. So I wanted to give my perspective, on this argument, given that it's pretty relevant at the moment. We're not quite sure if in the manga, again, spoiler alerts, Scabber is using advanced Conqueror's Haki, or if it's just advanced armament Haki. And this is kind of something that comes up a lot, and if you've been in the One Piece community for, any time at all, you've probably seen some people arguing, does this person have King's Haki? Is this just advanced armament Haki? There's a lot of implied people that maybe should have it, like Blackbeard, Dragon, maybe even Law, and then some people that you kind of just wouldn't expect to have it, like Don Jiao. So the thing about King's Haki, and maybe it'll be good to just go back and refresh kind of what King's Haki, Conqueror's Haki is in the first place. It is a conquering spirit. So this is not something that you can train yourself to have. If you're not a person that is born with it effectively, you're not going to get it. And I think a lot of people kind of misinterpret what that actually means. For example, let's take Luffy. Luffy, unlike Ace, discovered that he can use Conqueror's Haki around the age of 17. Ace did that closer to the age of 10. I don't remember the specific age, but he used it, in a pretty trying time back when him and Luffy were in danger. So, let's say that there was a person born and did have the ability to use Conqueror's King's Haki, but for whatever reason, sadly, they perished before they ever realized they could. It's very possible to assume that the numbers and the assumed figures are not just the percentage of the population that are simply born with it, but are in fact the percentage of people that get to utilize it one day. And it's important to make that distinction because there's another argument that I think is very important and that people often really overlook when it comes to this discussion. And that very clearly is proximity. As I was mentioning before, Kobe is around Garp. He's training in the Marines, and he has a goal that's very admirable, no pun intended. One day, he's likely to be the Fleet Admiral, and he's training directly under somebody that saw something great in him. Now, if we look at all the Conqueror's Haki users so far in the story, you could say that Conqueror's Haki is kind of a family-based lineage thing, though there is some examples of that not necessarily being the case, like, Big Mom only producing one child that has King's Haki out of her 80+. But, generally you could say that it could be connected through family lineage, but more so, there is the worthiness. Something that I think is really important to note is that though Sanji's dream isn't as direct and combative as Zoro wanting to be the world's greatest swordsman or Luffy wanting to take down all the emperors and become Pirate King, I think that Sanji has shown a lot of leadership qualities. We even had the Swirly Hat Pirates, and a lot of times in the story where Sanji has taken charge or even went off and done things on his own. So in terms of the quality, we've seen Sanji take charge quite a few times. Zoro's goal is to be the world's strongest swordsman, and Luffy's is to be the king of the pirates, meaning that he has to take down the Yonko and fight a lot of people. So I understand why at first glance a lot of people would think that Sanji, with the goal of the All Blue, wouldn't really be an ideal candidate. However, if we take the agenda out of it, and we're honest, Sanji has shown a lot of those great leadership qualities. So I think that that prerequisite is definitely checked. But as a larger point, Scabber Gaban. He is a legend. He's living on Elbaf. So we see that Summers isn't actually healing, and seemingly his hand is actually gone. And in my opinion, Scabber is the left hand of the Pirate King, so to speak. He's been through God Valley and a lot of other crazy things. It's not too hard for me to assume that, he could have King's Haki. And a lot of people might be thinking, wow, doesn't that make 3, I guess even 4 if you include Odin of the Roger Pirates that have it? If this is a 1 in a million ability, isn't that too much? And this is the point that I really want to drive home. Proximity is extremely important. Let me ask you a question. Can you dunk? I know I can't. I'm about 5'8", 5'9", and you know, back in middle school I wished I could play basketball and I wished I could do all those cool things, you know? And you might be wondering, what does basketball have to do with this argument here in hockey? But how many people in the NBA do you think can dunk? Well, ChatGPT says over 99%. My next question will be, how many people in the general public do you think can dunk? Well, again, ChatGPT tells me that that is well below 1% of the human population. So how is it that statistically, something that, you know, most people can't do has such a high concentration of ability? The story of One Piece follows the top tier of pirates. It is not weird, it is not strange, in fact it makes complete sense that there would be multiple users on the Roger Pirates that have this top tier ability, as well as the Yonko. We went through that for a reason. Just about all of the Yonko, with the exception of Buggy and Blackbeard, have been shown to have King's Haki. And I think that, you know, at some point, I wouldn't be surprised to see that Buggy gets it. And I know it could be through memeing, but we just gotta accept that's Buggy's path, memeing his way to the top. Besides that, Kobe. He's being trained by Garp, who, I'm bringing this up a lot, but I really got to drive the point home. Garp is one of the most proficient hockey users we've seen this far. When we saw Garp unleash on Hachinosu, I think everyone's opinion of him changed. The people saying that Kobe having Conquerors Haki wouldn't make sense, I don't believe that you're really considering the story enough, because the fact of the matter is, he is in proximity to great people. He is going up against the best of the best, and this story is focusing on the best of the best. So it's not surprising that there's going to be a high concentration of people with the ability to use King's Haki. Just like, once again, in the NBA, it's not surprising that most people in the NBA can dunk. And I think that is the way that we should look at it as a community going forward. Again, I'm just a guy in his room in Japan talking about One Piece. You know, you don't have to follow what I say. But I think that it's a really good way to look at things. We are talking about pirates, and the greatest pirates in the story of One Piece. It should be no surprise that the pirates, their adversaries, and the tops of other organizations in this world have the ability to use it. The fact that the Gorosei could use it should let you know that this power will be given to a lot of people before the end of the story. So, yes, I think Sanji's worthy. Yes, I think Scabber Gaban is using King's Haki. Yes, I think Kobe tapped into his King's Haki and was using it as well. Because how else would he deliver such a crushing attack? I mean, advanced arm in hockey is pretty legit, but is it that legit? I don't know. Time is going to tell, but that's my opinion on this whole thing. I think that, you know, even though King's Haki is supposed to be a 1 in a million or 1 in several million thing, we have to remember, many people never get to use the power, they perish or things happen before they even get to unlock it, so that could skew the numbers for one. And two, we are witnessing the story of the best of this world. So it is no surprise that there will be a lot of hockey users. Thanks a lot, guys. This has been Astro, aka the Galaxy Shogun. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know your comments, your thoughts. Is what I'm saying making sense? Am I just playing agenda because I like Sanji? Let me know in the comments, and again, if you have not subscribed already, please go ahead and do that. It's been your boy. Have a great day.